Hi, it's Lethea from Farm View Creators. Today we're going to work on the winter hutch from the Rust Covered Cottage by Christina. I am just loving these hutches right now. So I went ahead and pre-stained some of the pieces, the larger pieces, with Van Dyke Brown Antiquing Glaze, and now I'm going to go in with Folk Art Crackle Medium. I have shook this up very well. That is the key. I also store this laying on its side, but you just have to shake, and then shake some more, and then brush it on. If you want smaller crackles, you brush it on thinly. Larger crackles, you want to put it on more thick. So I wanted thinner crackles, so I put it on pretty thin. And I'm going to set that aside because it takes about an hour for it to dry. And it does do better if you let it dry naturally. Sometimes if you force heat it, you can overheat it and take out that crackle. So now I am putting all the tiny pieces on my sticky board, and I am categorizing them by the color that I wish for them to be. Going in with Sweet Pickins beeswax, which smells incredible, by the way, and putting that here and there on the background. And then I'm going to go in with Debi's DIY clay mineral paint in the color Apothecary. This is just a beautiful color, and it completely changes once it dries. I put down the wax because I wanted to use tape to distress it. I have never done this with the clay paint before, so it did not do exactly how I thought it would, but all is well. I figured out how to take care of that. I like to clean out the score line so that it has that shiplap feel to it, and you don't lose that when you paint it. And so I'm just using my Cricut weeding tool for that. And then I'm going to let that dry and go in and start working on all the tiny little pieces that are adorable. I'm going to go in with Buttercream first and get touches here and there, the candles, the blades of the sleigh, the sled base, and several other pieces. Buttercream is just a beautiful off-white. I have like 4 jars of it because I love it so much and I'm afraid I'm going to run out. So every time I order paint, I just go ahead and add another bottle of it. I have it in both chalk style and acrylic mineral. I love them both for different reasons. The chalk style, which is what I'm using here, is going to dry a little bit faster. It's a little better for distressing, especially with a sander and such, and kind of giving it that old kind of vintage feel. The mineral acrylic has a built-in top coat and is more full coverage, which is wonderful when you need that. So I'm going in on a few pieces and giving them a second coat. And now I'm going to go in with British Gray. I'll be honest, this is my favorite gray right now. It is just a very nice light to medium gray. And I feel like it has that kind of icy feel to it. So it fit well for this project. And I'm going to hit a couple of pieces with that. This one is a mineral acrylic. And I'm kind of doing an ombre thing with the trees and the birdhouse, just using my finger to kind of smooth that out. And then I'm going to do the same thing with these snowflakes. So I put the buttercream in the center, and I'm just using my finger kind of buffing in some British gray around the edges of all the snowflakes and just blending it in. And if I get too much gray, I can just go back and add some more buttercream where I want it. And that's exactly what I did. Hit some of those pieces with a second coat of buttercream where they needed it. Not all of them needed it. I also used the side of the sponges on the pieces that have the scored words. If you just kind of slide it over several times without putting any pressure, you can paint without filling in those groove lines. And if you get it in the groove lines, then you can use your weeding tool to pull it out. I'm now using vintage Flair on a few accent pieces. The bird, one of the books, and the sleigh. And then I'm going to go in with the same color I used for the background, Debi's DIY clay paint in the color Apothecary for that one book. I'm going to add just a little bit of it to the bird to give it a little more dimension. Now I'm going to go in with Spanish Sunrise. I'm not a big fan of yellow, but I adore this yellow. And I'm going to hit the candles. And now I'm going to use Sheer Bliss. This is a sparkle glaze, I guess you would call it. It does not change the color. It is transparent and clear, but it just adds a layer of sparkle on top. It's really pretty and very sparkly. And even when I add my dead flat top coat, it'll take the shine out of pieces, but not the sparkle. So here's where I was using my tape, thinking it was going to pull up, and it did not pull up any of that clay paint. And the only thing I think of is that it just doesn't have that resist effect on the clay. But I realized I could use my finger and kind of rub it out, and then I went in and sanded a little bit to get what I wanted. So, you know, sometimes you just have to use trial and error, and things don't work the way you think they will, but you can keep trying. You could always sand it off completely and start over. So I gave it a good dry, and now I'm going to go in with my Debi's DIY Dark Wax and just kind of hit the highlights around the pieces just to give it a little more dimension. And anywhere I got too much, I just wiped it back with a baby wipe. I'm going to do that on all the pieces, and then I will go in with my dead flat top coat, which just takes out the shine, gives it that beautiful matte look, as well as a quick layer of protection. And here we are. I'm going to just give it slight drying before I go in with my clay paint and just quickly give a good coat to each piece and then sit back and watch it crackle. And you can already see that beautiful crackle effect. Oh, I just love crackle, and I haven't done it recently, and I'm not sure why, but this was a perfect time. I always like to give it a little bit of a heat dry. That force dry can sometimes make the crackle widen and even enhance it and add more crackle. But then I'm going to put in some of the Debi's DIY Dark Wax here and there and buff it around. You have to be careful. You can't really wipe it back much on the crackle because it will mess up your crackle. And we do not want that to happen because it is just too beautiful. And hit that with my top coat. Give it a good dry. And then we're ready for assembly. I did tape my drawers in for this one so that they would all stay together because I knew that I wanted to crackle over the whole surface. But put that buffet piece on. Oh, it's just so pretty. I just love how it turned out. It's pretty even before you put all the cute little pieces on there. And then I'm going to place my little pieces where I think I want them to go. I still have time at this point where, I mean, let's be honest, any point you can stand back everything and start over if you don't like how it looks. Luckily, I love it. So I'm just going to put the pieces where I want them to go, make sure everything looks the way it is. I'm kind of digging out some of the goop on the buttercream from the snowflake, getting those letters in, making sure I spelled it correctly, trying to figure out where I want that sleigh. And because it is 3 layers, I'm going to go ahead and glue that because I also have a piece of jute that I'm going to tie on it just to give it even more texture and more dimension. And I'm going to go ahead and glue in. I love the art glitter glue because it does dry clear. It's a very strong bond once it dries, but it also gives you a little bit of wiggle room before it sets up, just a little bit, just enough. It also doesn't make my fingers sticky, which I get everything everywhere, as you can tell from my workspace. So that's really important to me. And my bottle tried to explode there, so I just had to wipe it up and use my fingers because I don't want to waste any of my glue. Putting those beautiful snowflakes on there. And now we're going to put that jute into the sleigh. Sorry, I was out of frame there. I apologize. I just tied knots and then I glued down my knots just because I did not want to risk them pulling out. And then I'm trying to figure out where I want it so I can put the glue in the right place. And I'm holding that down because it is kind of floating there. Oh, I just love it. Love it, love it, love it. Beautiful. There it is out in the sunshine. The crackle turned out amazing. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.